So when we were discussing about resource group and its importance, this was the part when we are creating some resource like virtual machine. Every virtual machine has some associated things like network interface card, public IP, storage unit. So if I'll go to this, you can see that there's virtual network associated with this, public IP, net NSG. This is interface card, NIC card, and this is the storage unit. There's a disk. So these are the associated things. So when you delete the virtual machine directly from virtual machine tab, these associated things are not deleted. They will remain intact. So when it comes to virtual machine, there is compute part, there's storage part. When you public IP assign, there's public IP. So when you are deleting a virtual machine, the cost of compute is removed. So you won't be charged for compute. But since the storage unit is intact, it's not deleted, public IP is not deleted, so you will still be charged for these things. So it's not just for lab purpose, it's for you even in the organization. We create the resource group. The purpose of resource group is that if we do not need the resources associated in this account, or if we are creating resources for particular purpose and n number of things associated with this resource, make sure that you delete the complete resource group, so that all the if you are deleting the virtual machine or you are deleting the database, there might be other associated things with this virtual machine and database basis, and build you will be still billed for it. You won't be billed for virtual machine, but you will be billed for storage unit. There could be monitoring, some monitoring setup alerts. So you will be still charged for this unit. So when I was looking into the Somesh resource group, I found all the resources were here. So I deleted them manually. So even for the lab, if you are done with the lab, go to your resource group, select all the units and delete them. Okay. Select all of them and delete this. So all the resources will be deleted. Let's review quickly few things, then we'll move ahead. So initially when it comes to virtual machine, there is VM planning. Under VM planning, you need to check over which virtual network we have to place this VM, name of the VM, location. If we want this virtual machine for some website and users of this website will be in India, so you will deploy this virtual machine in India region in order to make sure there is less latency and user will experience a fast and quick experience. So you need to select a location, then you will select the size. What is the purpose of my virtual machine? Either it is for some website or some application server, or do we need for some scientific purpose to establish a lab and collaborate and do lot of data processing, so we can select higher virtual machines. So it depends upon our requirement which VM size we want. Like for the we need it for very high compute power, so we can select F series that is specially designed for batch processing, multiple processing. They are designed for heavy processing, web servers, analytics. or gaming. So we can select the sizes F series, or if you want something for the database purpose. There is one server and there is associated database, SQL database or Oracle database. So there is associated database and users are connecting to this application server and they are having a lot of data from their mobile or suppose video streaming or something is being stored at this database. So it could be normal storage unit where videos are stored, or there could be heavy collaborating data. So there is specific series of virtual machine or size of virtual machine that are memory optimized. These are for the parallelized G series. The purpose of this virtual machine is to provide more efficient memory storage unit and processing for the memory purpose. And if it comes to compute, calculating, scientific purpose, batch processing, then we can use different series that are available. Next, we have to look into the price planning. When planning a virtual machine, we need to look into the price criteria. There are two things associated with the price. First thing is the compute cost. The virtual machine that we have selected, it will be charge will be generated for this virtual machine and you will pay according to the charge. There is storage part. Normally when it comes to compute part, it has two storage by default. First is for the OS part, storage where operating system is installed. The second one is the temp storage. So this is the C drive that comes default with virtual machine. This is the temporary storage that comes default with the virtual machine. So when you create a virtual machine, these drives will come automatically. And over here, you install the operating system, that is Windows or Linux is installed, that comes with the drive. When you select the option for the Windows server or Linux server, there is temporary storage that comes with the virtual machine, and the purposes of temporary storage is temporarily storing or processing different things over the time, but do not save anything on this temporary storage D. Do not save anything this on this temporary storage. The reason is that if you will, this is for the temporary purpose. So after some time, if there is some update, there is some reboot or something else, so all the things that are saved in this temporary purpose, these are all deleted, automatically deleted. The purpose of this temporary storage is just for the processing of applications, and also when they are processing the things, data is being stored just like RAM. Almost similar to RAM, but this isn't the RAM. So it's when data is being temp, like when you will open your system, you will open command prompt and you will run %temp. So there will be a folder that will open and it will contain many temporary things. Mostly we delete these things in order to release the occupied space. So it's similar to that, this temp folder, similar to that. This is the temp storage where temporary data temporary data is stored for the applications and other things, and once the purpose is done, this will be automatically deleted over the time. And if there is some reboot or some update or patching, something like that, this will be deleted as well. So make sure you do not add anything in the temporary storage. Additionally, it comes to this is the pricing of this is included in the compute part. So if you have selected some virtual machine and it is costing you 8 rupees per hour. The price is included in the compute part. Next is the storage disk. You need a sorry. Yesterday I told you that you can add any additional disk. So over the virtual machine you can add additional disk. And normally if you are working for some specific purpose, either your organization or for any lab purpose, if you want your things to remain intact and not deleted and work fine, you need to create a storage. So for normally like we have C drive, then D drive and E drive. So it will be E and F drive. You can manually change it to E, F, G, H, any name. It depends upon you. So this will be charged additionally. So when we are building a VM, compute will be charged, storage will be charged. These are the main component of billing part when it comes to pricing. On the compute part, there are two options. First one is consumption based. We have until yet we have looked into just a consumption part where we are being charged per hour. We can see 8 rupees per hour or per month base or per year base. So there is another model that is reserved VM. So there is another option for the compute part, reserved VM, where you can reserve your virtual machine for 1 year or 2 year or 3 year as per the availability given by the Azure, and you will be charged less. Suppose you are being charged throughout the year for a VM approximately $1,800, and if you will reserve it for 3 years, so that means even if you use VM or you shut down VM or you delete VM, doesn't matter, you will be charged for 3 years. That would be less amount. Suppose normally it will cost you 1800, and when you will reserve the virtual machine for 3 years, it will be approximately $200. That will be for 3 years 3600. You will save a lot of money. The only drawback is that if you do not need this virtual machine after 2 years, so you will be still charged for 1 year. So either you build another virtual machine and continue to running for 1 more year, or you will still have to pay this. So on the compute part, there is one another option, that is reserving the virtual machine. So when comes to and the last thing, that is the operating system, either Windows or Linux. Windows, you have two options. Either you can select or create any server or normal desktop Windows 10 OS. When it comes to Linux, you have free Linux part like Ubuntu, CentOS, or you can select Red Hat, and there are other flavors of the Linux as well. So you can see I came to reservation part from this search tab, and now I have the options to reserve the virtual machine or storage or data explorer or other Linux Red Hat plans, SQL and others. So there are multiple options where you can purchase them for a year or 2 year or more, and you will be charged less. So I can select single subscription or single resource group. Could be the shared one as well. I need to select this one. to select the region as well. Then you can see that term is 3 year. For 3 year you will be charged for monthly. So these are the options when you are able to select these options like North Headland location. We have to select the location. We have to select the region. We have to select the years, number of years. Then we want billing is monthly or yearly. It depends. Upfront, if you want to give the advance, there is upfront option. Over here, there is 1 year, 2 year, and for 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year options. You can select the option where you want to build this virtual machine, like Central India.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but what does upfront mean, sir?
That's you are paying in them in advance,
Okay, prepaid.
right?
Okay.
Depends upon the option you choose, and once you are done with this, you can select this option. So you reserve virtual machine will be reserved for 2 year, 3 year, or 5 year, 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year, and you will be charged accordingly less. As of now, since this is the pass, Azure Pass, so I'm not eligible because it will run only for a month. My account will run not more than a month. But when it's a normal subscription, they will give you option to select this. Okay.
Okay.
So, Nikhil sir, I have a question. In the VM creation, when I was, this is not related to this, but when I was creating the VM, the option for encryption was not there. It was saying no available items.
So you were talking about this, right?
Yes, sir.
So the first option is platform managed key that is automatically generated by Azure and keys stored at Azure. So you won't be managing this. You might have selected this, right? And you will get nothing. The reason is that when I will come to key vault and all,
Sorry, I
so
was disconnected for a minute there.
okay. So initially you might be selecting encryption at rest with customer managed key, right?
Nikhil sir,
As
I think you're speaking on mute, or I'm not able to hear.
what about this? Are you
We are,
able to hear me?
yeah, you are audible, sir. Or
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Niharika? Am I audible to you? Just a second.
Hello,
Hello.
am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Can you hear us? Okay, we'll go ahead and I will resolve her query later. So yesterday we saw some of the options over here. Create while creating a virtual machine, like we have to select our subscription, we have to select resource group, then virtual machine name, location where we want to build virtual machine, then we have to select the image where we want to build. So it could be Windows Server, Ubuntu Server, Linux and other versions. Then we'll select the size. So there are multiple size of VM depend upon your requirement. So you need to choose which one you want to build. So they have different processors, RAM and all for the purpose. They are even 8 GB, 64. So it's virtual CPU and 64 GB RAM. So multiple options available. One more thing, when you are selecting any virtual machine, compute power. So you are selecting the compute option and you are going for pay as you go. So initially it is showing me 4632, okay, per month. When you land to final page, it will show you per hour. But when it comes to billing, Azure will charge you per minute. Suppose you are running a virtual machine for 55 minutes, you will be charged only for 55 minutes. If you are running it's for 30 minutes and if billing is 16 rupees per hour, then you will be charged only 8 rupees, not more than that. So final billing is being done on a minute basis. Next we looked into the fault domain and update domain. Suppose there is one virtual machine and this server rack is down, so there will be outage. So there are group of nodes designed by the Azure. So suppose you are building a virtual machine in 3 fault domains and I am building six virtual machines. So they will be literally placed in 3 different sets of nodes. All those 3 of them will be have different power supply. They have different network connectivity. So in case if this goes down, whole rack goes down in the data center, whole unit goes down, still there will be your 4 machines continue to running. That's the fault domain part. And when it comes to update, for every for every operating system, they are being updated, patches are being pushed. So we have 10 update domain. So it is possible that on the same rack, Microsoft had designed different update domains in order to patch their guest OS. So these patches are just for guest OS. The OS, guest OS like VMware EXXI. So Microsoft are patching their own virtualization software. So if they are patching their virtualization of software, so they have created a system for the update domain. So it will be UD1, UD2, UD3, UD4, UD5, UD6, UD7. So suppose you are placing your virtual machine in 10 different update domain. So when Microsoft is pushing the patches, they will push the patch on this first, and second could be any one of them, third could be any one of them. So patches will be pushed first on this, so this will be rebooted. So even though your second virtual machine is running on the same rack but on the different guest OS, so it won't be patched. So even if you are building 10 virtual machine and they are on different 10 update domain, so only one virtual machine will be rebooted at a time. So your REST 9 virtual machine will continue to run fine. Okay.
It is like a shopping site. Like one server went down, so the shopping started with another server, shopping sites using another server.
Now that's the skill set. Oh yeah, I got it. That is, you are saying that it's this simple. If you're building 3 servers for shopping site,
Yes,
so it is possible they are running on the one load balancer. If you are placing them on different update domain or fault domain,
yes,
even though one is down, two will still continue to work. So if suppose they are on the same rack and there is some fault on this rack, so this rack is being supplied by same power supply, same network connectivity, and suppose this network connectivity goes down, so your shopping site is down. If we are placing in the other machines in different region and being served by the same load balancer, so it's the same data center, just this is a different rack. So it is being served by same load balancer, even though there is fault in one data center rack, it will still continue to run on the another one.
yes.
Okay.
Sir, what does that LB stand for?
Sorry,
LB. Yes, the
it's a load balancer.
load balance.
Load balancer.
And what does that do? Load balance.
We'll see it in we'll see it in networking section. The load purpose of load balancer is to distribute traffic among similar machine. So if you're building a server for the some website, I can build 3 or 4 parallel similar server and requests will be sent to each one of them after verifying the health check.
Okay.
So next we looked into scaling concept. So there's horizontal scaling, there's vertical scaling. So when it comes to horizontal scaling, suppose there's two virtual machine, two servers running for the website or any application, and there's lot of requirement coming or requests coming from n number of users, and these two virtual machines are unable to handle this traffic. So it will be horizontal scale. Another instance of that virtual machine will be automatically built depend upon how you choose this or skill set option. So there will be parallel set of other instances built, and requests will continue to go to other virtual machines. There will be cool down time for this virtual machine. Suppose we have virtual, if percentage of this CPU percentage is greater than 75%. So it will take, suppose I have set the 10 minutes for scaling up and 10 minutes for cooldown. So it will be, there will be supposed to have selected 2 instance should they automatically generated. So there will be now 4 instance, similar instance running. And if suppose CPU processing is less than 25%, scale them down to 2 virtual machine. So it will again take 10 minutes of a cooldown and then it will come to 2 instance. So it's the purpose of the sudden requirement. Suppose the big billion day shopping is going on, or any shopping offer or something sale is going on, and we need our CPU and other processing power to be high for certain time that is not fixed. So you can automatically create a skill set, and when you are creating a skill set, it will be automatically scale up. So there is another option of virtual scaling. Suppose there is one virtual machine running with 2 CPU and 3.5 GB of RAM, and there is requirement that I mean there is certain requirement where this virtual machine is not able to fulfill, so it needs a higher processing power and RAM. So there is option of vertical scaling where there will be 3 CPU, or you can increase up to 4 CPU and 7.5 or 7 GB of RAM, and this virtual machine will be vertically scaled, more powerful virtual machine. But the only drawback of this vertical scaling is that in order to increase this CPU and RAM, you have to reboot this virtual machine once. And if there is running production server or environment, you won't afford this. So mostly when it comes to a skill set, horizontal scaling is being preferred. So we can create another scale instance, and the full requirement will be fulfilled for a certain duration. So we have looked this skill set. Just give
So
me.
is there any cost effectiveness involved in case, we are doing vertical scaling rather than doing horizontal scaling?
It depends upon requirement. Suppose we know that there is one machine running. So right now you are being charged for this machine, one virtual machine. It contains 4 CPU and 7 GB of RAM. Suppose there is some certain requirement in the evening 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. and we need more power just for an hour. So you can use vertical scaling since there is no sudden requirement, and we know that requirement is fixed, we can select vertical scaling. It will be rebooted once, server will be rebooted once, and 6 CPU or 14 GB of RAM. So it will be scaled up, vertical scaling, and cost will be less. So if you are building a another virtual machine, there will be several costs associated with this virtual machine. But when it comes to here, if we do not need any additional storage and we do not need anything else, so I will be charged only for two. So suppose one virtual machine costs 7 rupees per hour, and you are horizontally scaling. So two virtual machine will cost you 14 rupees. And when it comes to virtual machine, I do not want to scale any other instance, and I want to just increase power of this virtual machine for an hour. So it will be charged to me 9 rupees. So there will be cost effectiveness when it comes to virtual scaling.
Okay, thank you.
So when creating a virtual machine skill set, you need to select some resource group, then name, location. If there is some availability zone, we can select it. We have to select which virtual machine you want to scale in out. We'll select initial size that we want. If we are using our own license, we can select the licensing part. In order to save the cost, then next. Now if we can select the disk, premium SSD, standard SSD, whatever we want. We can select the encryption, then next. Leave the networking part as it is. Next it comes to scaling. So there's two options. First one is manual. Second one, that is if you will select this manual, it will be automatically scaled up and scaled down. Second is custom, where you decide the condition how you want to scale up or down. So we'll select the custom part. So first, minimum number of instances that should run. So I'm selecting one. I can select two or more. The maximum of number of instances should go. That will be 10, or you can increase or decrease the amount you want. So suppose you have initially there will be two instance count. So I have two machine, virtual machine VM1, VM2. So they can be minimum number of instance 1 and maximum number of instance 10. The condition you can see over here is for the scale out part. If CPU is greater, this is the by default, you can change it. If there is CPU more than 75%, instance increase 1. So suppose CPU for these virtual machines goes to 80%, there will be another machine scaled. If CPU of combine all three goes more than 80%, there will be another virtual machine in picture. Maximum it can go up to 10 virtual machine. Next is scaling part. If CPU is less than 25%, suppose the CPU is right now it's 8 virtual machine, 7 virtual machine. Now combined CPU is 20%. So it will decrease 1 VM. Then again if CPU is less than, then 1 VM, then 1 VM. So we will continue to go on decreasing the VM. That is the scaling part. So minimum number of VM at the end will be running will be only 1 VM. No less than it. If you want to select the minimum number of instances to be 2, you can select it over here. So at any point of time, there will be 2 virtual machines running. So this is the custom part where you can select how you want to scale in or scale out the virtual machine.
According to so CPU threshold, so these scaling will be automatically, or we have to do manually?
This will be automatically.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And even for scaling, there is duration in minutes. So for 10 minutes, it will continue to be, suppose there were initially 2 VM, VM1, VM2. For 10 minutes, it will be continue to running the third virtual machine. And if there is no requirement, it will decrease it to again for 2 instance. So you can customize it time as well. You can select your diagnostic if you want. So you can go to review and create. So it will take some time for the deployment of the both virtual machine. And once it is done, we will look into it. The next thing we looked yesterday was the extension part. So give me a virtual machine. So there is one virtual machine already running. So normally there are two options. Either you want to install some software. Once virtual machine is built, you can go inside the virtual machine and install some software. The second option is the extension part. So this extension part are limited to certain things like antivirus, any monitoring software, and some performance software. So they provide you to add them as extension. So when you are building a virtual machine, you are so adding a extension, it will be automatically deployed inside the virtual machine. So you do not need to manually go into the virtual machine and deploy this one. The benefit of this extension is that suppose we are using, there is some deployment for deployment part, they are template. So if you are using pre-built template to deploy this virtual machine, you can add this extension automatically with the template. So when it will come to template deployment, you can add this option like I want Windows Defender or Norton antivirus along with the virtual machine. So if we are building 10 virtual machine or 100 virtual machines, these in the deployment template, if there is Norton antivirus, it will be automatically installed inside the virtual machine when it is built. So these are the options available at Azure for the extension part. This is the agent for cloud workload protection. Mostly they are antivirus or monitoring software. This is the pipeline agent. Graphics card extension, network voucher, PowerShell extension for this. This should be custom for script one as well. Antivirus, anti-malware, AMD. So these are the custom extension. If you want this extension to be pre-built with any virtual machine and you are using a template, set template, then you can use this template to push this extension automatically to a number of virtual machines.
For these extensions, there will be additional charge.
Yes, they will be depend upon what you are installing. Suppose this is the Symantec, Symantec antivirus or cloud workload protection. So Symantec will charge you for this, not the Azure. Okay. Think this is done. The virtual machine skill set is built. If I'll go to virtual machine, there isn't any. But when I will go to virtual machine skill set, this is the test. There should be 2 virtual machine running. Status 1 out of 2 succeeded. There is one still pending, I guess. Building at the back end. This is the one. So it's still running, updating and running. This is already built and it's running. You want to check the parameters. These are the parameters for this. We'll see networking part later, then we'll see how we are allowing the ports and all, and or we are building 2 virtual machine in the skill set, and if we want to place this behind the load balancer, so we'll see this load balancer in the networking part where requests are being sent simultaneously to one by one on their different virtual machines as per the load and health check. Okay, guys. So next we'll look into the virtual networking part, VNet. Virtual machine section is done. And if you have any query or if you want to perform any lab, you can perform the lab and let me know if you face any problem and if you have any doubt. Okay. So next is the virtual network. Those who are aware of virtual network, it's good. About the rest, all of us. Suppose you are in certain organization. So there is some network boundary for this organization. So outside this network boundary, there is one router or firewall placed. When you will go inside this on premises or in organization, there are switches. Then there are different access point or client machines and all. So this is how things work inside any data center on premises and all. But when it comes to cloud computing, there isn't any switch concept of any switch. The concept is virtual network. So what is virtual network? It's a logical or isolated boundary inside your cloud network that belongs to you. So suppose this is the cloud network, Azure Cloud Network. There are other vendors as well, and number of clients associated with the Azure Cloud Network. So if you are creating a virtual network, this will be your virtual logical network boundary where your resources are being placed. So you are placing your resources inside this virtual network, and only you will be able to access this virtual network. It is completely isolated from any other client or an association. It's similar to your on premises where this is your organization and these are your server room racks and all the software. So only you will be able to access this software as per your security, your place and everything. You will be able to access. There's another user, they are not connected to your network, or they are not your, if they are not part of your network, then they won't be able to access your network. So that's the physical boundary. So you create walls and all, you create separate switches and router, you provide your own connectivity to on premises, another on premises. But when it comes to Azure, you create a virtual network. Inside which you define the virtual network address range, suppose 10.0.0.0/16. So this is the your virtual network range. So you place your component in this range. Your machine's virtual machine IP will be assigned on this range, and this will be isolated from other operators or other clients running on the same Azure. So initially there is VNet, virtual network. Then there is subnet. So suppose we are defining a virtual network. So range of IP address range of this virtual network is 10.0.0.0/16. Then we need to create additional subnetwork inside this virtual network. and we will be placing our resources inside this subnetwork. So we can define the IP range of this subnetwork as well. 10.0.1.0/24 should be inside this range. 10.0.2.0/24, 10.0.3.0/24. So initially we are creating a virtual network. Inside virtual network there are different subnets. Inside subnet there is virtual machines or any other resource. Suppose this is the virtual machine. It should have at least one network interface card in order to communicate with any machine or any resources or outside the network. So at least one network interface card associated with this. So it comes under subnet part, network interface card that is associated with the virtual machine. So there's one IP associated with this virtual machine. There can be n number of virtual machines built inside this subnet, and you are going to place this on the virtual network. So let's see so this is the virtual network. I will add one virtual network, manual virtual network, where I will be placing all my resources. So this is the by default address space. If I want to change this address space, I can change this address space as per my requirement. I can change this virtual network part. Next, I need to create a subnet. So just a second. So when you are creating a virtual network, initially there is VNet. You create a VNet. Inside VNet, there are different subnets, sub 1, sub 2. So we'll define this virtual network subnet over here. It should be within this range itself. So sub 1 IP address 10.6.1.0/24, add. So there is one subnet. I can add more than one subnet. 10.6.2.0/24, add. So in this we have one virtual network. Inside this virtual network there are two subnet. Next, security. When we'll come to security part, we'll see how to place firewall on the virtual network, or bastion server, host server, or DDoS protection. If you want, we can enable it as per the plan. Right now there is no plan associated, there isn't any, but we can enroll for any DDoS plan. Then we'll review and create it. So if you are building any resource at Azure for your organization or for your personal purpose, initially you need to create a VNet in order to organize things very well. Then you create subnets. Then you arrange resources inside this subnet. So this is done. My virtual network is created. My address space is this. My subnet is this. As of now, there is no device connected to this virtual machine. Inside this virtual machine, there is nothing. I haven't opted for any DDoS protection yet. There isn't any firewall connected to this. There isn't any security part as well. There is no service or there is no peering. So we'll come to these points one by one when we'll see security, peering or DNS part. So we'll create a virtual machine and we will associate this virtual machine with one of the subnet. So we'll create two virtual machine, two VM. So it will be placed. One VM will be over here, VM1, and second will be on subnet 2, that is VM2. So add virtual machine. Server, Windows Server, credentials. Leave it disk. So over here, so we can select the, so we have created the virtual network and we can select that network. We can select, so this was the virtual network automatically created for me. So when you are creating any virtual machine, Azure will automatically create a VNet for you and subnet for you. So if you do not want this and you want to assign this virtual machine with your own VNet you have created manually, so you can attach this virtual machine with your VNet. So you can remove this. So over here, if I'll see, this should be the test VNet. There are two subnet where I have created, subnet 1 and 2. So I selected sub 1. This is the public IP, default came with this. I will go to review and create. Create. Then I will go to virtual machine, create the another virtual machine on subnet 2. So I will place second virtual machine in subnet 2. So here I will select the virtual network I have created. I will select sub 2. Earlier it was sub 1. And I will go to review and create. So when you are creating any virtual machine, normally internet, it will be open for the internet part. You will be provided with public IP and internet ports were open. So you can change this option if you want to select particular port. Right now there is only 3389 open for these virtual machine. I want to change this option. I can change it later. Second thing, this is my VNet. There are two subnet, sub 1 and sub 2. Connectivity to internet is open for sub 1. Connectivity to internet is open for sub 2 as of now. And connectivity to sub 1 to sub 2 is open by default. So you do not need to change this in order to connect virtual machine 1 on sub 1 and virtual machine 2 on sub 2. They can automatically communicate with each other. So this is the network watcher, a software in Azure where you can see your resources, you can build a topology or you can troubleshoot it. So I came to network watcher. I came over here. So you can see initially I created test VNet. Inside test VNet there were two subnet. Then inside subnet 1 there was only one machine, that is VNet 1. Inside this virtual machine there is one NSG associated with it, there is one public IP associated with it, and there is one network interface card. On inside sub 1, sub 2 there is virtual machine, NSG, IP and network interface card. So for every virtual machine there is by default one network interface card. If you want to add more you can add it. Am I clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Virtual network and subnet and all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go to RDP into the one virtual machine, and from there I will try to communicate with the other one, and we'll see that communication from sub 1 to sub 2 should be open by default. This is the winner 2 and the second machine. We'll go inside first machine. I will select RDP from first machine, and I will place the IP address of the second machine. So you can see it is asking me for the password. So I'm inside the second machine. So what we did over here, we created a VNet, we created two subnet, we placed one virtual machine inside this subnet. We can place multiple virtual machines inside this subnet and they all will be reachable to each other. So this is the second virtual machine. You'll see the IP. This one belongs to 10.6.2.4 subnet. So I'll disconnect this machine and we'll go to second one. This is the second one. Ten dot six dot one subnet. So these are two different subnet. So we have different options like we want our network to be secure and we want best in server. There should be one server to sit outside and we'll be able to communicate to other servers from this best in server. So the server purpose of this server is to secure your inside premises. So what we can do is we'll create a VNet. We'll create a subnet sub1 and then other subnets sub2, sub3, sub4. And we'll allow access from virtual network outside virtual network, either public or private connectivity to this best in server. So we'll create a best in server, any server over here, and the purpose of this server will be to provide connectivity to other virtual machines. And activities will be logged over here. Security implementation and other software will be installed only on this machine in order to make sure that everything is secure. So every connectivity or any network or any packet that is coming outside the virtual network will first come to Bastion. It will validate the traffic. It will collect the logs who login into the Bastion server, and then users will be able to go into the other virtual machines. The reason is that connectivity from sub1 to sub2 to sub3 to sub4 is allowed. But from outside we have allowed only communication to sub1 that goes to Bastion server. This is the same way how firewall is installed inside the VNet. So when it comes to installing a firewall, we place the firewall into different subnet. So we install firewall on different subnet and every traffic that is sub 2, sub 3, sub 4, sub 5. So we are installing a firewall in the subnet 1 and we'll create a route table That will say every traffic that is coming from outside will go first to subnet 1, and then we'll create another route that will go from firewall to sub 2 or sub 3 or sub 4. So we are placing this on the different subnets, and the public access will be open only for this subnet, or even private access will be open only for this subnet. Similarly, Western server, when we are installing any server, the open access will be only for this server. Rest all will be blocked by NSG or any firewall installed. They will allow only access to this server, and since this access from one subnet to other subnet is open, then we'll go to other subnets. So guys, we looked at virtual machines today, virtual network, subnet. I think this is good for today, right? Make sure you practice enough. If you're not practicing, you are not creating virtual network, subnet and all, and you are not exploring different options over Azure, you won't get anything. Okay guys?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have one
Which,
query.
yeah, if you have any queries, you can ask. Guys, anyone having any query,
Uh,
you can
For
ask it now.
previous for previous three lectures, videos not available at your channel.
Okay, I will provide that.
Yes. Actually, during that lectures, I was in shift, so I was unable to join that.
Yeah, I will provide the recording.
Yes,
What
sir.
else?
And are you going to upload today's session, sir?
If you want, I can upload it.
Yeah, please upload it.
Sure.
Thank
What else? Okay, guys. So we are ending this session, and make sure you do practice, because when we'll go in depth, like on virtual network, we are creating NSG, or we are creating installing any firewall, or we are creating point to site connection. You won't be able to understand or grab those concepts if you're not clear on this. Okay. So do practice and let me know if you face any issue. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
you.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.